Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dan Theok, and I'd like to welcome you to yet another weekly investor forum. Let me introduce our guest for this evening, Solomon Sharp, Chief Executive Officer at Main Event Entertainment Group. We encourage viewers to post their questions on social media and to remember to tag us with the hashtag #MILInvestorForum. If you enjoyed this program, be sure to share, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll also be featuring a market segment on foreign exchange, so be sure to stick around until the end of the program. Main Event was launched in 2004, founded by COO Richard Bear and CEO Solomon Sharp. The core operation of the business is to provide premier event management, digital signage, and promote several services in Jamaica and the Caribbean. The company has been involved in a myriad of popular events, including the ICC World Cup venue selection ceremony, the DJ Rig music truck, and Jamaica Hope documentary, just to name a few. Main Event's presence can also be felt behind the scenes at popular concerts, including OMI in Concert and the Magnum Live, as well as corporate events like our very own Mayberry Investor Forum. On May 3rd, 2021, Supreme Ventures Limited purchased a 10% stake in the group. I take this moment to remind you that if you're seeking to expand your investment portfolio or embark on your very first investment journey, Mayberry Investments can guide you in achieving your financial goals. Follow us on social media and visit our website at www.mayberryinv.com to learn more. Our social media handles should pop up somewhere on the screen. Now let's introduce our special guest for this evening. As I said before, it's Solomon Sharp, who is the co-founder and CEO of the Main Event Entertainment Group Limited. Mr. Sharp spearheads the client relations, business development, and product diversification departments of the company. He's what you might call a unique visionary, as he prides himself on creating open space for creatives to thrive within his company. As a result, Main Event Entertainment Group Limited has become one of the region's top event execution agencies. Prior to founding Main Event, he worked at D&G and developed new approaches to event planning, marketing, and promotion, with a particular focus on sporting and music events. An avid horse racing enthusiast, Mr. Sharp is also the current chairman and of the board of directors for Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, Caymanas. Welcome, Solo, to our event this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us. Also online, I'd like to welcome our CEO, Mr. Gary Parrott.
Good afternoon, everybody.
And our executive chairman, Mr. Chris Berry. Welcome, Chris. Welcome, Gary.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Excellent. So on to Mr. Solomon Sharp, who I believe has an investor presentation for us.
So before I get into it, it's a somber moment for me. It never gets easy, when we think about Harry and the contribution that he has made on the landscape of business in Jamaica. What an awesome individual, great father, advisor, mentor to everyone. Fantastic individual. Uncle Harry, we're going to miss you, but every time I'm in a spot, I'm going to say, what would Harry do? And I know, just like with this pandemic, we're going to come out of it rearing and ready to go because, Harry told me many of stories when things were tough with him in business. Mm-hmm. And, as I say, when the things get tough, the tough get going, So respect, enough love, Uncle Harry. We're going to miss you. But we're going to do this for you. We're going to make it bigger and better in this whole bounce back. So, wow, what a tough year and a half almost now. Mm-hmm. But hey, we're still here. We're still fighting. The business is still in a good condition. We have a healthy cash balance. We have a great clientele that are ready and raring to go. We have a great team. So let me just take you through some brief slides here. We are sort of in preparation for this whole pandemic. Based on what you saw on the previous slide, we had gone through with the team and we were doing some setups with agility and resilience, and saying, how can we make this company better and stronger to continue to build our capacity and continue to build our capabilities and expand. Based on that, this is what has left us in a stronger position. Immediately, we shifted from work from home. We engaged with the board of directors, and I can't thank Director Dr. Ian Blair enough, who is now our acting chairman, who heads up the finance committee. Is very important. His stewardship throughout this time, we owe a lot to him for how strong the company got to in the beginning, and then how strong we are still in a pandemic. So we kept our staff and client safety as our top priority. So we immediately shifted from work from home. We tried as best as possible to keep in touch. We had previously invested in Microsoft, so we had the benefit of Microsoft Teams. We had some good meetings, we had some tough meetings, we had some emotional meetings. People wanted me to tell them, hey, how long is this thing gonna last? And I read a book, Good to Great, so if you've never read Good to Great, I encourage you to read that book. It kept me sane throughout this whole entire period, knowing that we had built a great business, or a good to great business, and we were going to sustain. We downsized the operations, obviously, like many did, to manage all the costs. And we continued to look at where the opportunities were, and we pivoted, and we did some smaller weddings. We executed a drive-through graduation. We executed vaccine sites, and we did, as I said, we did quite a few virtuals, and that's what kept the team moving. One of the most important things for me in building a business, Dan mentioned it earlier, that I give creatives a platform to go crazy, and that's what I do. So my team was of utmost importance. I always knew that, when you look on my size, I kind of built in a little extra there to be able to go in hibernation and last. But it was very important that we took the team as top priority, and we did all the best that we could. Some left the company, but I think all in all, right now we're probably at the right size, ready and raring to go. So we managed the cost, and we got all the safety gear 2 weeks before the pandemic actually hit. We had ordered masks and gloves and all kind of safety equipment. And when you look at, even though our footprint is noticeably smaller, in the first quarter, which is traditionally one of our strongest, we eked out a profit. Recently, you would have seen things like Boys and Girls Championships. We were right there with ISA, and there's a lot in the pipeline, but I don't need to go in detail to say that we've been going through a surge and a spike, but it seems to be tapering off. So corporate is ready and getting excited to execute all over again. Outlook, how do we see the future? Post-COVID, I can't even tell you what post-COVID is yet, because we're still in it. But when you look at what is going on with global entertainment, you see football. My Chelsea team just won recently in front of fans in Portugal. Horse racing globally, are having fans in Cayman Park. We have had a small amount of fans on our big property, and so far so good. Knock on wood, we have not had any issues there. And they're experimenting with concerts and festivals in Europe. And North America has pretty much said, hey, the USA especially has said, we're open for business, and we got to keep this thing moving. I read a lot. I follow this forum. I see what others are saying. And I get a real confidence every time I read certain parts of the newspaper and business. Yes, you still get scared when you see the numbers and you wish they would go away, but they're not. They're not just going to go away overnight, as we have learned. We're at 15, 16 months in. So when you look at it, and you see an 8% rebound in the tourism in the whole Jamaican economy. Tourism is hot. There's a controversial event that happened this weekend, but that speaks volumes. That says that Jamaica is still in demand. And I think when it's all said and done, it's going to prove to the government and everyone else that we need to stop restricting us locals that need to get this entertainment ecosystem going. It's not just about main event and the amount of staff that we have, but we have developed an ecosystem. The guys at Dream Weekend has pumped millions of dollars, or billions of dollars, I should say, in the economy, and it's important for us to get back up and running. Scientific research has shown that they're allowing activity of vaccinated persons inside, outside, all around. Hey, I'm a guinea pig, I'm fully vaccinated, and I want to encourage everybody to get it done. ME's dedicated team, as I said, we spent a lot of time. We're a very dynamic organization, so we spent a lot of time on the whole agility, adaptability, and resilience. So it makes us ready to flip that switch at any time. So anytime a client calls me, I'm like, oh, are you ready? A client had an unfortunate meeting today, and one of my staff members showed up, and I said, hey, you're with somebody way more efficient, and they smiled, and I said, I know who you are, I know what you're about, and we feel fully confident in your team. For future projects, we started some training with our M Academy, and we're going to continue with that. Our next phases was looking at tourism, hospitality, and experiential entertainment across the region. When you see the amount of hotel rooms that are being built and all the opportunities, we were going there for our next phase. That's why we had trained some people through JSIF with the whole that whole program to support. We have supported the Learning for Life at Deno and Geddes with their foundation, and we have supported Ray Neville with that whole Project Bartender. So there are other elements of this whole tourism sector that's important. We're also looking at some opportunities across the region that I can't speak of, but I know that there's going to be a lot of fireworks when those announcements come out. Thank you very much. I'm Solomon Sharp, and I'm ready to serve, and we want to help build back this whole Jamaican economy. And it's not just about my business, it's about the entire Jamaican economy and the whole economy and ecosystem. That's me.
Thanks, Sal. Appreciate that. Excellent, folks. Well, let's look at the numbers. That's what I like to do. So I hopefully up on the screen here we'll take a look at the stock price and see how the stock price has traded in the last 12 months or so. Low of 297, high of 492. If I were to go back a little bit further, I want to remind you guys that this company IPO'd in January 2017 at $2. They raised $120 million at that IPO. Of course, it was amazingly oversubscribed by more than 5-fold. And the stock traded in the 2018 to 2020 years, the 3 years prior to COVID, at an average price of $5.51 with a low of $3 and a high of $8. But roughly speaking, an average of $5.51. So just bear that in mind. Today, the stock price is at $4.61. As Salo said, they've had a challenging last 12 months with trailing earnings of $80 million negative. In the last quarter, if we go to the next slide, we'll see that they've shown substantial improvement in that 12-month trailing performance, where they turned an $8 million profit in the last 12 months. And that represents actually about $44 million of cash flow from operations, because that does have some depreciation in there. So they're doing a pretty good job of generating cash despite the difficult times, sitting down on about $150 million of cash with only $100 million of debt. So he's net cash positive, which is great. As you can see, they have $810 million in assets. And for me, this is a company that has had a trailing EPS of 33 cents in the good times, in the 3-year period prior to the pandemic. And I think 20 times is always a good valuation for a bright junior market company. So 33 cents, 20 times PE. I think this is a $6.60 stock, folks. That's my view on it. And today it's trading at $4.71. So there's great opportunity, in my view, for further growth. Like I said, they've weathered the storm. They're sitting on $150 million worth of cash with very little debt and still generating positive cash flow, still have $542 million approximately in shareholders' equity. Next slide, I believe, just shows you again what's happened. So we can see the trend in the last 3 quarters before they made profits. This is really just the impact of COVID and the country shutting down. And here they are back into the green in this last quarter. Traditionally, this first quarter, as Salo said, is usually a great quarter for them, with them doing $70 million in the previous year and $62 million in the year before that. So I have no doubt that we're going to see main event bounce back really strong. I think the worst of COVID is behind us. And as we see the tourism numbers picking up and things starting to boom, I have no doubt at all that main event's going to jump. So on to my questions. First question from me, Salo, is that event that happened last weekend, I don't believe you're associated with that, eh?
You know, we cannot cherry pick what we do. A lot of people think that as an event business, we focus a lot on parties and all that kind of thing. There's really one party that I will tell you that we're solidly behind, and it's Dream Weekend. It's well organized, and we didn't work for those promoters. You know, good luck to anybody who did. But there's a bigger picture to it that, you know, we need to just open up Jamaica. It shows that Jamaica is still a great, safe destination. I don't think they managed as well as they should have. And that's the difference. When you get a main event and, you know, some of the people that we deal with, we bring a different level of due diligence to the program. When we did the first graduation last year for AISK, the Ministry of Health came down and said, wow, we never thought about that, and they kept adding. When with my influence at Caymanas Park, but with a fantastic team that I have there, we've been able to open back Caymanas Park almost a year now, and it's been a safe space. So we know what it takes, you know. So we're just patiently waiting. As I said, you put all the nice, fancy financial stuff out there, but on just plain brass tacks, you know, we know what we're doing. We set the stage. We've built a bigger ecosystem around our business. And those are the people that I'm worried about. All of our suppliers and some of these people out there that we kept moving. So, hey, my word to the government, let's get this thing moving before the economy crumbles. We're an important part of the economy. As you can see the numbers there, we provide a lot of jobs, and there's a whole heap of offshoot jobs and a lot of people that depend on this.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. You know, I looked at your vision and your mission, and I have to say I was actually impressed. I mean, your vision is to be the region's #1 brand in delivering phenomenal experiences, and your mission is we're just a bunch of passionate people committed to creating magical memories. We believe in doing almost anything to deliver your crazy ideas, bringing the best of the world to satisfy the imagination and beyond.
Yeah, so when you look on that, you realize that we're already on our way to being the region's #1 brand. During the downtime, guys in Trinidad, and everybody's saying Trinidad is this mecca, but the guys there were reaching out to me all the time. Hey, I'd love to be able to work with you more. How can we do some more collabs? They wanted us to bring the M-Style and the M Academy program there, because they thought that all the different M's that we've created, you know, we've added a different dimension. So there's really no other company like Main Event in Jamaica nor in the region, and a lot of people want to understand what is that organizational magic that we have that they don't have. So yes, they can do one event, nice, on a day. We can do 6. And again, we flick a switch and we make it happen all over. I think I was probably prepared for this kind of thing a long time ago, work from home, because I used to work in my car. When I just started in business, it wasn't about the office, it was about the client facings. A lot of our executions are not in an office anyway. We're on a venue, we're on a set, we're on wherever we need to be whenever. So when you look at all of that, that was carefully curated, you know, being the region's #1 brand in delivering phenomenal experiences. But region, what's the region? Is it just the Caribbean? No. You know, it's actually quicker to get to Miami than it is to get to Trinidad, right? And there's way more airlift and all that kind of thing. And you see all these parties migrating to Miami. Maybe Main Event needs to migrate, eh? Gary, you might be traveling, so we have to talk. So
Ready and waiting, sir.
so you know my appetite, right, Gary?
Yes, sir. Similar to mine.
It shows. It shows.
I'm not sure if it's a good combination, but and then when you look at, you know, that whole passion-driven organization, bringing that crazy magical mood to everything, and just continue to deliver and deliver and deliver. So that's what we're here. We're ready. The Prime Minister says go, we're going to flick a switch, and then all of a sudden you're going to wonder, was there COVID or whatever? Because, you know, we're going to get back in the groove. And everything that we've been able to do, you know, Champs, the principals have said that It was fantastic. We kept them looking at as our first world.
So you guys were involved in the Boys and Girls Champs.
100%. We have been from day one. And when you talk about that bringing the world, you go back to our asset base and you see the kind of investments that we've made and what we're sitting on. We're sitting on the best audio system in the region, the most dynamic LED package, the best staging. So whenever all the big events are ready to come back, Mr. Bogdanovich, if you want to be in October, we'll be set up from September, and that's how we'll be ready to go.
Excellent. On to my next question. How does Main Event see itself operating differently within the post-COVID landscape? How will you adapt to the new normal?
Well, we're already adapting, as I said, we go on all the venues with the PPEs. We're prepared, we brief the team. We have our own cleaning gear. It's not that we don't want to share or give somebody else some business, but we had to get our own because sometimes the client pops up at odd hours to say, hey, what about that? Or what about this? So we've always been very prepared, I was grown by a pilot, and he said that if I fail to prepare, I prepare to fail. So, I always have that checklist, and I remember going on flights with them and seeing them do a checklist, check, check, check. So for me, I always have a little extra gas in the tank and check, check, check. Little more seats here on the plane, and that's what Main Event is all about. And that is why you see the robust setup that we have with the kind of asset base and everything, and why we're not in a spot or bother. Director Ian Blair, for anybody who knows him, is a very hard taskmaster. So when he comes to the table and he drives due diligence, and we're well governed, we don't know sign off on anything willy-nilly. So we've left the company there, and the company will shine. I have a little extra meat to survive on. I worry about my team, but we're ready to go.
I think you're going to do fine. Sure, moving on to our next question. In fact, Gary, do you have a question for Salo? Gary.
I have several.
I'm sure you do.
The first one, I heard the Prime Minister in Parliament last week, or this week, saying that he's having conversations with people in the entertainment industry, trying to find the right way to start it back. He gave a cautionary point that, the first wave last year might have been associated with the opening up of the entertainment space. My question, Salo, is can you give 2 or 3 definitive solutions on how you think the entertainment industry should be reopened, so it can be done in a safe way, and so it can be a win-win scenario? I mean, I'm sure the Prime Minister doesn't want to be criticized every day over this entertainment thing. He's trying to find a solution. What are those 3 things? And one of the key players in this entertainment industry, what do you think are 3 things that he should look at?
Well, if they come and have a conversation with us, we have executed several weddings in the time, at a hotel, a smaller wedding of 30, one when the numbers were 50. We never exceeded the numbers. How the team engaged when the team came on venue. So the problem is, Gary, the Prime Minister has an issue because throughout the country, there's a broad brush thing what entertainment is. And there's probably some things happening in the communities that are not as organized. So when you look at a Dream Entertainment, we did one event which was a tailgate, and there was no issues. When you look at Cayman House Park, we're continuing to execute week on week on week with protocols, right? And we have kept the discipline. We have not increased the numbers. We have not added any food vendors where we shouldn't have. And we've kept everybody, hey, wear your mask, wear your mask, wear your mask. I've been at the resorts, and when persons go in the elevator, they have on their mask. When persons are outside, there's no mask. So there's some amount of science to support all of what needs to happen. So in the initial, we set some numbers and we set some certain type of venues. I'd be glad to have you over at Cayman House Park. I know I'm here as being an event today. I'm not sure, but I'm all over the place all the time because you know me, I'm dynamic. But I'll be happy to have you at Cayman House Park. We have a big infield that we're ready to set up that venue and execute anything at any time in the safest manner. And so far, when you've looked at, the people going through the hotels and all the different things outdoor, we've not really heard that there is an outbreak. Again, when persons wear their masks, the fact that vaccines are in, let's have a vaccine party. When they had the vaccination site down at the arena, persons kept reaching out to me, hey, you guys must have been involved. It's the safest I've ever felt during COVID. I got my vaccine, I was happy. And eventually the JDF brought a trumpet and they got some entertainment. People have said to me, hey, why don't you make the government keep a vaccine party? And now to send back message even to the diaspora, because they want to come home to say, hey, the word party in Jamaica seems to be a very bad word right now. But hey, Gary, you know what we have done at Cayman House Park, and everything that we have executed, knock on wood, all of my staff has been safe. And hey, let us out, please.
That's the mantra, let the dogs out.
Yes.
And I mean, to be fair, when we look at the positivity rate with the testing of the tourists, it's actually far lower than the mainland positivity rate. So it shows that the hotels are able to keep guests, do these things, be responsible about it without causing a problem in terms of outbreaks. So
100%. When I look at the hotels and I look at what we do, as a matter of fact, we were doing some of these protocols pre-COVID in how we executed and set up events. And I remember being at weddings, and so we would come and do the heavy lifting, and we would work with other suppliers, other decorators. And at the nth hour, when they were barely moving, they're like, oh my God, how am I going to clean up this place? And here comes the main event crew, boom, 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 and in 2 minutes the place is transformed. So we're accustomed to transforming venues. So in the transformation process of what COVID is, or post-COVID, and all of these kind of things, and hey, it's not rocket science. It's been executed in England. It's been executed around the rest parts of Europe. It's in North America. So these places are closer than we realize, and we're not seeing big things happen. And when I keep watching these numbers recently, I think it's more than time. We're ready to go, because we can bring a buoyancy in the economy a lot faster. And my blue chip companies that I work for are on me every day. I'm now having 12 conversations a day with clients, and I'm normally in that vision process. I don't normally get so involved in some of the process, but my team is so engaged, and we keep hitting it out the park. We're looking at doing some stuff for Father's Day, so stay put. We're keeping the show moving for digital signage. I feel it for my clients in the quick service restaurants. They have been able to kind of pivot with Hugo and Ends and these kind of things, and Seven Crave and all of these kind of delivery services. But it's a reason why they invested $150 million in a store. And all of that is almost, going up in smoke or up in COVID or whatever.
But Salah on that, I put in on the hat of the Prime Minister for a second, right? So I believe the Prime Minister wants to make a move on this thing, but there's a flip side. What happened if it backfires, right? And I mean, that's how it is. He's trying to satisfy every constituent. And I mean, Salah, you gave a very good example about Caymanas and how well Caymanas has done and how they're protected the benefit that they've gotten to be able to be open, etc. But the amount of people that love you over at Caymanas, like every time you have a race at Caymanas, they send you love notes as to why you shouldn't be open, right? And that's real. It's not everybody that is going to be excited about entertainment. So as the Prime Minister, right, how does he protect his downside? What can he do to allow you guys to open up? But at the same time, if something goes wrong, how is he protected?
Well, I think our earlier conversation with Minister Desmond McKenzie, that's what he was worried about. Yeah, you guys can do a big venue, but I can't do a big venue in this community or that community or that community. But really, those communities do have big venues, because everybody has a play field, So I think there's a real answer. But as I said, Gary, I'm not in the Prime Minister's shoes, right? I've had to make some tough decisions. I feel like I'm the Prime Minister over at Cayman House Park with some of the stuff that comes at us on a regular basis. So I can understand, how tough it must be.
Right.
But I think we have to take it on a phased basis, and certainly we're not asking to start everything overnight. And just like Cayman House Park, we're willing to come in, we'll be a case study, and we can help them to have certain events there. We have a lot of green space. and it doesn't disturb the neighbors, and we can show you how to put something on. And I've been holding back because Cayman has an approved thing to do more persons in more areas. So in solidarity of the entire entertainment landscape, right, we have held back and kept the core of that business going. But in doing that, am I doing the right thing? So whilst the horse racing industry is up and running and moving, there are certain spin-offs that could have happened. But again, as Gary said, the minute we do and we put 5 persons standing together, oh my God, how come he did this and he can't do that and all of these kind of things. So I think it's time that everybody just gets mature and understand that this economy going to collapse, right? And that's going to cause a bigger problem. There's a friend of mine that will come on the live later on, and he tells you about this on a day-to-day basis, and he knows a lot more about economics than I do. So if we don't get up and running, the fallout, economic fallout, is going to be a lot worse than COVID.
No, I agree totally. And let me be frank, a 2 p.m. curfew on Sunday in this environment doesn't make sense. And I think we've done a great job managing COVID so far. I mean, I'm just a numbers guys, forgive me out there in Wonderland, but more people are dying from crime than from COVID, and we're not locking down the entire country over the crime situation. So I totally agree that they have protocols. If we can find a way to have the large events and respect the protocols because you have space, then we need to do it. I mean, all throughout the world, they're keeping major events, football. You Chelsea people will tell me they just had a major event. Olympics is about to, they're going to have that. Gary's going to be going off to help manage that. There's got to be a way we can get our economy going. That's the number one thing. But I want to run through these questions here, and we come back to that. And prepare yourself, Chairman Berry, coming to you next. But the next question that I have to ask, like many other businesses, Main Event partly relies on the performance of the tourism industry. How optimistic are you about recovery over the next 12 months?
I'm immensely optimistic. I spent money that I didn't have. The kids were driving me crazy in the house. And I said, hey, let's go and have some fun. But I was really going on an experiment. So I went to at 2 different times to 2 different resorts. And I get accused of always working. And they couldn't understand what I was doing at certain times when I was taking certain vantage points. Jamaica is ready. Jamaica is a lot safer than we realize. And when you look at these hotels, there are certain confined areas, right? But there's a lot more outdoor areas. So the outdoor dining became a bigger feature, and the tourists love that, right? So the only problem we're going to worry about there is mosquitoes, right? So in taking that, right, as a template, I realized that tourism is up and running. I spoke to my friends down there. They're very optimistic. The bookings have started. They're looking at big groups coming in. One of the things that why we moved a part of our business down to Montego Bay is to be able to absorb groups. We just did a wedding at a hotel with a group. Again, there was no issue. Everybody followed the protocol. Everybody came tested, and all the sanitation and everything. So tourism is a lot more healthy than we realize, right? And I guess, just like at Caymanas, we're afraid to speak about our success because, all of a sudden we're going to come under pressure that why are you doing this if we can't be allowed to do it? And we need everybody to just be able to do everything, and let's get moving right now.
I agree with that. Chairman Berry, over to you. I'm sure you have a comment or a question on this matter.
Yes, I am curious to know how did all the suppliers that normally supply Main Event, like what percentage of them you think went out of business? How many of them are going to be around to serve Main Event and collaborate with Main Event when things finally open up? I mean, I spoke to a good friend yesterday who, when I listened to his projections about when we're likely to be curfew free, it was very depressing, because, I feel that, the vaccine is what really drives down the COVID rate. And I don't know if we have any vaccines, man.
Well, that's a critical component. Some vaccine just came. We're about to do some more sites coming up. And that's a critical component, right? What was very interesting is that a lot more young people wanted to get it. So they were ready to jump the line when they had the vaccine sites at the stadium, and they said, hey, anybody can come. In a flash, there were too many persons there, right? So herd immunity, have we already gotten our own herd immunity without the vaccine process, why the numbers are coming down? Because, hey, it's less than or 5% of our population that has been vaccinated. So what's accounting for that? So people say, okay, well, we'll close the airport so that the people coming in who are bringing this thing. Well, the people are coming in now are now COVID-free because they have to get a negative COVID test or they have to be vaccinated. So, hey, if the person's coming in, and that was causing a big problem because we saw that spike when, some of our own had to come home through the ships or repatriated, however which way they came. So now that we're through that part, I think we're ready to open, and it shows that I think science is pointing us in a direction, right? That it's time that we look at, is it the caution of the economy, or are we overthinking science?
Yeah. And I think I'm with you with the overthinking one. I know Chairman Berry certainly feels that way. If you can have an 8 p.m. curfew on a Saturday, and I can work with that, again, 2 p.m. Sunday doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make sense. What we want
I don't really work with a curfew still, Dan. I don't like the curfew at all. I think it's foolishness, but then I don't run the country, so. But the people who supply you solar, how are they faring? What percentage of them you think are gone bankrupt?
50%, they're in bad shape.
As much as that?
As much as that, yeah, really, really bad shape.
That's terrible.
Remember now, Chris, I set up a unique operation, So I said, hey, I kind of set up my operation to be a fun space, almost like a school campus. So we provided lunches every day. So we went from providing 100 lunches every day to providing maybe 10 for the critical persons that have to be in the small office footprint that we now have, right? My landlord wasn't happy when we were leaving, right? Because he lost a good tenant, right? But we had to downsize. So we had to shrink or die. I mean, even myself, I had to shrink.
Right, folks, stay with us. Remember to send your questions in on social media. I understand YouTube's giving a little trouble, so feel free to switch over to IG or to Facebook. No, but I'm with you, Chairman and Salo. I think we have to focus on following the protocols and back off with this obsession with the curfews, especially where it just doesn't make sense. And again, I'm going to say it again, 2 p.m. on a Saturday doesn't make sense. When we look at how the hotels have managed it, just as you said, Salo, they test when they're leaving, and the positivity rate from the tourists are far lower than what's going on in Jamaica.
So they're certainly not getting it when they come here.
Correct, not. And I think in terms of having the events, you've demonstrated as long as you have appropriate space and good venues and properly managed events by professionals who can post bonds if required to demonstrate that we're going to follow the protocols, and if there are any issues, we'll be fined appropriately.
So, guys, I want to change the discussion a little there.
Sure.
So, Solomon, I know during the COVID we couldn't meet physically, so we had a lot of Zoom meetings, Zoom productions, and I know your company is involved in this. Can you tell the investing market out there, like, how is this segment doing for you? Are you actually making any money on it, or it's just tell us about that part of the business.
It has gone tremendously well. We are making a little money. When you do a big event like the Rum Festival, and you certainly do the Mayberry Investment Forum every week, and we're working on some Father's Day projects right now. So those things have kept us moving, kept the team alive, kept us. So it's not a great money making thing. And it doesn't 100% work for our clients, because when can you do these things? So even for us, when we're doing certain online forums, we're even restricted because we're then going to have to move around after. But it did well for us. We did some work with Digicel and, as I said, Raineville, Red Stripe, etc. in studio, some stuff outside. So it has worked good for us to keep us alive. but it's not going to build an economy. It's not something that is going to boom a business. So we are unique. We have good outdoor spaces that are safe, right? And we need to really understand Jamaica. The vitamin D, the good old sunshine there, I think is what has made Jamaica a lot stronger, and the Jamaicans a lot stronger to be able to withstand this whole COVID thing. So I think, Chris, it's time for us to get moving. This online thing keeps us connected, but it doesn't.
You don't like the Zoom thing, Salah?
Now, I'm not a Zoomer, so instead of doing this live from home, I wanted to come here in the studio, and when Dan said this event, I was like, wow, I got really excited, and I don't think anybody likes the Zoom thing, and I think that's what is happening, that the communities are just saying, hey, Mr. Prime Minister, you can't lock up all of us all the time. So there's lots of events happening out there. We're a publicly traded company, so I will not be exposing my staff or my elements to that. And so I don't do everything. But, pretty soon, we're going to say, hey, we have to do what we have to do.
I got you. Next question from me. How will the new partnership with SVL be beneficial to the company's growth?
Well, it's already beneficial. We had done a lot of work with SVL before. Certainly, we're working on some things in the pipeline. And it's a win-win situation. So SVL, people don't realize it's really an entertainment company that does a little gaming on the side. They have not realized that they're really an entertainment company, and they're going to go into it way big. We're waiting on all of these approvals, and I think SVL is going to eventually celebrate their 20th, and if they don't get to celebrate their 20th, they're going to do their 21st. And they're going to be leaders. They're certainly also sitting on a good cash balance. So there are going to be some leaders in this space. And there's some opportunities down in the region. So I think when you put the number one gaming business in the Caribbean with the number one entertainment business in the Caribbean, it speaks volumes, and it's going to create a lot more opportunities for a lot more creatives out there. So guys, don't be depressed. Stay positive. We're coming with some great opportunities when the time comes. And if you know me, I do it big.
Excellent. Gary, last question for you. Again, it sounds like a match made in heaven for me before we move over to social media.
Yeah. When I listen to Solomon, there's so many, when I think about main event, there's just so many opportunities and potential there for main event. And, the big question, which is the question I'm asking, is what is it going to be is hierarchy? We're coming out of COVID. Everybody is trying to get back into making a dollar, but what are going to be that 2 or 3 spaces, Solo, that main event is going to focus on to make maximum revenue?
Well, we already have some clients we're working on behind the scenes with the whole digital signage. That gives us a high margin and passive income. And but Gary, I can't say too much, because I have some people here watching that dime too that are already making notes. I say, Salah say. We could go figure out how we do what Salah say. So Gary, one thing I'm going to tell you, you know me. You know we're going to lick it out, right? But I can't say the Salah say.
Yeah, but Salah, you're a computer. They're a printer. So if you explain it, it's just one sheet. So they don't know how to get a second sheet unless they come back to the computer and press print again.
Gary, we're getting ready to export M Academy.
That's a nice one.
Our one space is about to boom, and them don't know what them doing. Them going to find themselves with a lot of money, and them need to train their people. And we have a template. What did I say? Flick, flick, flick. How many switches you want me to turn on? You want me to turn on zone 1, zone 2, zone 3? You want me to do there, and there. So we are just dying for all of this.
All right, big ass. I'm really the big ass. Really the big ass.
Oh, I tell you. All right, thanks for that, Salo. Thanks for that, Gary. Moving over to social media, where I think we have about 3-4 questions queuing up. First question from social media, if I could see it on the screen. Thank you, please. Okay, first one comes in from Khalil Mitchell, and it says, does Main Event have any plans for future diversification of the firm's operations in order to better withstand future shocks? Must be shocks.
Well, we thought that we had put everything in place to withstand any amount of shocks.
Yes.
And I think that's why we never over leverage. When you look at our loan balance, this is literally what Dr. Blair says. Oh, that's nothing, right? We sit on a strong cash flow. We still have a very strong asset base. That is why we're able to flick that switch and make magic happen on a snap of a finger.
Yeah.
So we're ready.
And the partnership with SVL, no doubt, helps with the diversification, no doubt. Chester Francis Jackson asks, well, first of all, he says, congrats to Solo and his team at Main Event. Are you currently exploring the acquisition of an entertainment venue to host or promote events post-COVID?
Chester, come out of my business.
Chester, he has a partnership with Caymanas where they have 200 acres of land for a venue.
Yeah. So we're already in big conversations with persons about this.
Yes.
We would love to, and this next person is asking about West Indies cricket. They're
Yes.
not big. They're not bringing it here in Jamaica, and it's not. And the CPL is in St. Kitts. We have already reached out, and we are ready and raring to go. But again, there's other restrictions with travel. Certain countries can't come here. We are not allowed to go there. So we are ready to put anything on a plane, anything on a ship, and we can execute any venue at minimal notice.
Got it. So in relation to this question from Khalil Mitchell, I think you've answered it. Does Main Event have plans to partner with West Indies Cricket or the league? I think Salah is saying it's not coming to Jamaica specifically, but you're in talks.
Ready.
Thanks for that, Salah. I appreciate that. Okay, moving on to our next segment. Top stock picks. Great, good deal. This week I want to look at Tropical Battery. I can tell you next week I'm going to be looking at one of those last companies, and we're going to have Lasso's chin coming in short order. But this week I want to look at Tropical Battery. It's one we talked about before. Current stock price is $1.16 when we did this yesterday. I think today they closed a little bit higher. It's a company that had their IPO not too long ago, September 2020, if my memory serves me right. And stock came out at $1, so today it's at $1.16. Up 16% already. What excites me moving to the next slide is their recent results, where you can see for the 6 months to March 2021 that despite sales being flat or falling by roughly 2%, they've managed to reduce their operating costs by 9% and grow their profit effectively by 83%. Also aided by the fact that they're no longer paying taxes because of their junior market listing. So 83% increase in profits. They're obviously headed to make annual profits in excess of $66 million, which will be about 7.5 cents EPS. You multiply that by 20 times, and I see the stock getting to $1.75 by the end of this fiscal year. Good balance sheet, $1.58 billion in assets, total shareholders' equity of $770 million, and they are just poised for growth. Obviously, coming out of the pandemic, you're going to see their sales also jumping because there are lots of folks who weren't driving before. The entire rent-a-car industry was down. You're going to see those guys starting back up to catch the tourists coming in June, July, August. They're all going to need to buy batteries for their cars. And so I see their sales really booming. They're going to have a very strong next 2 quarters. Look out for full-year earnings in excess of $68 million from my point of view, and stock price headed towards $1.70. Good deal. I think we're running a little bit short on time. Moving on throughout the segment, our next section, we'll be looking at our top gainers and decliners for the week, starting with our decliners. For our decliners, first one is Margarita Turks Limited, down 9%, followed by SSL VC, down 8%, followed by Dolphin Cove, down 6%, but here comes tourism to save them. iCreate, down by 4.65%, and finally, Medical Disposables, down by 4%. On to our top gainers for the week. We start off with SIL up 8% approximately. Express Catering up by 5%, again waiting on tourism. Palace up 5%, tourism won't help them. Jamaica Broilers up 4%, we had Chris Levy recently, and Kingston Properties up 4%. Great, moving on throughout our segment. Next section, we'd like to cover foreign exchange. And as usual, this first slide speaks to the annual devaluation rate over the last 5 years, which is approximately 2.7% per annum. And we had Kevin O'Brien Chang talking about PPP, purchasing power parity, and he also confirmed the 3% annual devaluation rate over a longer period of time. So that's the norm, typically what we've experienced. More recently, if you look at the graph, you'll see that it's not linear. Next slide, that it's having peaks and troughs, with a peak as high as $154 in the last recent months, and now coming back down to a low of $149.40. Next slide, you'll see that we have year-to-date had 4.73% devaluation, so it's already higher than the norm, which we said is about 3% per annum, but we've been as high as 154. We've seen it pull back down now to about 149.40. So again, we're seeing the exchange rate moving up and down, 4.73% devaluation year to date. Let's talk to one of our gurus to see where they think the dollar is headed, how they're feeling at 149.40. Gary, what are your thoughts on what's going on with the exchange rate?
Well, last week I indicated that I think we're going to see the dollar bouncing around here. You're seeing the average at about 149.40. There's a large seller at around the 148 high. And so what you're seeing, I think with the tight liquidity, I think we're kind of bouncing around a new bottom, which is somewhere around 148.50 to 149. And I think as the liquidity comes back into the marketplace, you'll see the dollar start trending back up again. Especially this graph that you have on screen, Dan. You will see the peaks and troughs, and you'll have seen where the last bottom was 145.86. It traded up to 155. And you can see this graph looking as though it's trying to form a new bottom, which is what I'm saying is going to be somewhere around the 148.50, 149 region. And then I expect it to start trading back up again.
Thanks, appreciate that. Chairman Berry, how do you feel now that they've released the dividends to the big finance firms, countered by the fact that tourism is going to start picking up? What are your thoughts on how those two variables may impact the exchange rate going forward?
Well, I think it's the variables right now are not as important as how the BOJ feels about the value of the currency. My feeling is that they really spend a lot of time watching the current account, and if they think the current account is under pressure, they're gonna move the currency. It's early yet to see what's going to happen with the current account. I think fuel prices, they're definitely up, and tourism is coming back, so that's positive for the dollar. And I just think it's too early to say what's going to happen. If you follow the trend that's been going on for a while, we're going to have a minimum of a 2% devaluation. I think if fuel moves hard against us this year, then we're in trouble. You're gonna see that range move, and it's gonna be higher. But I'm not being any prophet of doom. I'm very optimistic, and I think we should stay calm.
All right. Thanks, Chairman Berry. Appreciate that. Hey, it's been a great program today. Really appreciate the insights from Chris and from Gary, and of course from Solo. To our viewers, thank you all for being a part of our weekly investment forum. I'd also like to thank our special guest, Mr. Solomon Sharp, for participating in today's investor briefing. Always a pleasure to have you, Solo.
Thank you, Dan.
We're certainly looking forward to having yet another insightful discussion in the coming week. We'll be featuring next week a guest to be named, so stay tuned. But be sure to follow us on social media and stay up to date with our live streams. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Mayberry Investments Limited. Thank you to all our viewers for tuning in today, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Keep safe, and remember, wise investors, slow and steady wins the race. Goodbye.
Moments are once in a lifetime. Moments are magic. Moments are precious. Make them memorable with Main Event. From concept to creation, we use your vision to create magical memories, bringing you the best of the world. Main Event Entertainment Group Limited, taking the imagination beyond.